Hi, I'm Tiffany Jana, and I'm the co-author of Erasing Institutional Bias.
And I'm Ashley Diaz Mejias, and I am the other co-author of Erasing Institutional Bias.
Privilege plays into the institutional bias conversation in some very interesting ways, so many different ways. One of them is this idea that, first of all, I have to preface it by saying that we all have some degree of privilege. So privilege is not something that is, relegated only to a particular demographic or, anything like that. So you can't just say, oh, if you're a white male Christian, you have all of the privilege, and I'm a black woman, I don't have privilege. Doesn't work that way. We all have some. But what privilege does in the context of this conversation is it creates blind spots for us. It creates places where it's much, much more difficult for us to see and understand and experience sometimes the institutional bias that's at play. So the more areas where you are experiencing privilege, the more you have to lose in your mind. It kind of creates a threat response if those biases are addressed in the system. So it is, I like to tell people that while nobody actually who's sitting here right now created the origin of the biases that we're dealing with, but that doesn't let us off the hook. As a society, as a species, we do have some accountability to each other. So this work really does start with the individual. We have to look at our own stuff. We have to identify our areas of privilege, because where we have those privileges, we might actually be contributing to institutional bias without being aware of it. So I think most of us would consider ourselves decent people, and in doing so, we do have a responsibility to look and see, how am I possibly benefiting from an institutional bias that might exist here? How might I be sort of supporting that? How might I be reinforcing that bias? And those are really hard questions to ask, but those are the kinds of questions that we invite people to grapple with in the context of the book so that they can take action. And the way that we wrote Erasing Institutional Bias is such that you don't have to be the CEO of a company, you don't have to be at the top of an institution or a system in order to affect change. The idea is that anybody can identify where there might be some bias and then do some of the personal work required to gather data, reflect on your own role in the context of that, and affect some change. So we're not powerless is the message there.